G'day guys, welcome back to another video with Enno here from Fantasy Take TV. Today I'll be doing something a little different, something I said I'd get to a couple of weeks ago, just more of a season review. More for myself, really, just to look at where I went wrong this year. A lot of value has worked, a lot of picks I've missed. It's definitely my worst year in probably 5 years or so. So I want us to look at where I went wrong, what I can improve on into next year. You know, maybe a bit of talk on whether stuff like this or how this year's gone is going to continue. Or what we should be looking out for. But yeah, just going to go round by round, look at the trades as well that I made in that particular round if I did, and sort of assess if they were right, if they were wrong, would I do them again, what could I have done differently, things like that. So, you know, I'll probably spend more time early on the starting team, which you're looking at right now, and then sort of early trades, and then maybe I'll probably try and accelerate sort of as we get towards the rounds, you know, that they currently are, or just recent ones, because, you know, obviously can't really say too much about them, but I'll speak on just what I think is relevant and what I want to sort of discuss. So, yeah, we'll start with the starting team. I'll probably spend a bit on this, sort of run through my thought process, but first thing I noticed is that I spent pretty much the whole 10 mil, so only $600 in the remaining salary there. And I will preface or start this by saying the screenshots are from my YouTube videos. I don't screenshot my team every week, or I don't have a high quality one, which may be something I'll think about doing next year. But if I want to do a video like this again, but yeah, it's just maybe a bit blurry on most of them. But anyway, so the starting team, the defenders I was pretty locked into. The only one I was probably hesitant on was Dawson. Stewart, he did have that injury concern that he was coming off the Liz Frank. But I saw him against my Tigers in a preseason game. He looked awesome. Was, you know, jumping, flying for everything, which is sort of what I wanted him to see him do, because if he's not doing that, then obviously there's some concern. But yeah, he looked awesome in that game. I pretty much locked him in. Dawson, I wasn't super sure on, more with just his role at the Crows, obviously coming across his first year, where they're going to play him, which we've sort of seen to be true. It's been sort of all over the place, but he's just such a talented player. He can score anywhere. Shorty was pretty much locked in for me. Whitfield was locked in. I wasn't ever going to move him. Obviously, that didn't work out for a lot of us. And Hewitt as well was pretty much locked in after his preseason. I wasn't convinced early on, but once I saw those two games, saw his role in the team, that was an easy pick for me. So the premiums, Dawson was the only really one I was tossing up on between maybe him or Crisp. Happy I went with Dawson for this season. He's just unreal to watch. Great player, and probably one that we'll look at starting next year, if I'm honest. The rookies, Hinge, McCartan and DeConning. So really McCartan and DeConning were pretty much locks in there with, first of all, their price and role in the team, looking to be pretty certain. Hinge was one that was a bit more a bit more speculative, but I just wanted him over Gibcus. I didn't really know with Gibcus if he would be staying in the team as long as he has, and he's been awesome. So I sort of got that one wrong, because Gibcus did produce a ton at one point and sort of flew up with his price. So look, Hinge was all right to an extent. I did end up keeping him too long, but yeah, I'm totally happy with picking him. I think he's been dropped a couple of times harshly, to be honest, from the Crows side. The midfield, we were all trying to start as many big boys as we wanted. It just didn't really pan out with the rookie situation being so short in defence, and to be honest, pretty short across the field as far as cheap ones go. You know, we paid up for a lot of rookies in this starting team. So had to drop a big guy, and that last Gold Coast game against Geelong really just swayed me to get Matty Rowell, as I didn't have him in my team for most of pre-season. Looked to be pretty good early when he dropped this 157 in round one, but he did sort of peter off pretty quickly, and funnily enough, he's picked up his form recently, but that doesn't really help us now. So Jack Steele was the one I dropped. It was out of obviously McRae, Took or Steele that I had. That was sort of a lot of people's thoughts in the preseason. But we've got to start thinking next year that yes, it's good paying up for the big guys, but it's okay if you can save some value here. So look, the mids, it depends obviously pick by pick and case by case, but you probably could have even gone lighter on in the mids this season and grabbed a few guys a little bit cheaper. Look, Clary is one that we luckily got a little bit cheaper, but to be honest, I'm starting him every season now. Like, I just don't want to go without him. It was very scary not owning him for a while. Lockie Neal was pretty locked at his price. I don't see how you were ever going to go without him, and he's bounced back, having a great season. Jared Berry just didn't pan out. He never really hit the ton. He never got that big scorer after to shoot up in price. Which, again, like Matty Rowell, he has a couple good games recently, but he was long gone from mine and probably all your sides by now, so that didn't help. Horn Francis and Dacos were pretty much locks pre-season. Top draft picks, going to play early. We didn't really have anyone else, and obviously Dacos has proved to be amazing. He's still in my team, and I'll be fielding him this week. So Dacos has been really good. Horn Francis was just all right. Made enough to sort of say it was worth it, but in the end, probably expect a little bit more from him, but it is hard when you're playing for North. And Josh Ward was pretty much a disaster. He is still dealing with some concussion issues as far as I'm aware, and he can't find his way back onto the field. So, that was a poor start. Stevens was also a poor start. I didn't really want to start him, but again, there wasn't much else to choose from. So I did stick with him. I know a lot of people got him in a future round, which we'll talk about. Connor McDonald was okay. Obviously didn't make enough to be a good pick, but there wasn't much else. And Mitch Owens, good story about Mitch Owens, that he spent 10 weeks in my team after scoring a 2 in round 1, after me then trading him out and then trading him back in for another 29 or whatever it was, and him being straight out of my team. So spent 2 trades on Mitch Owens this year and haven't got a lot out of it. So the Rucks. Now, this was the funniest thing pretty much you could imagine to start the year, really. I was very set in my ways picking the big Shrek over Gawn. In fact, I was considering Darcy and Gawn and no Grundy, which probably would have panned out to be better if just the time frame worked out where, the D's were playing so early on a Wednesday night, it just didn't sit well with me locking in Gawn and sort of relying on the rest of the team, teams going well and rookies being shuffled around and whatnot. I just want to lock in Gawn so early. And that, to be honest, was part of my thinking with Oliver as well. I didn't want to lock him in so early as one of my premium mids in case I wanted to move things around. So that did annoy me a bit. The fixturing, which I don't know if it's going to continue from then on, but that's another story. So once Darcy was out, I was, and I'll be honest, I'm not lying here, I was planning on going to Jared Witts. What happened was, on Friday night, Jack Hayes comes out. He has 20 touches, 3 goals, 10 marks, and scores 127 points in his debut game for the St Kilda Footy Club. And I said, I'm keeping the Shrek. It was only a 1-week injury, according to reports, and he'll be back round 2, and I'll bank that 127, and I'll go from there. So I did get baited. Now, look, that did work early, but clearly Jared Witts would have been the better pick to start with, and then I could have got in Darcy for Grundy, obviously, when he got injured or later on. It just would have worked out a lot better for me, obviously, with Witts being $200,000 and something less and scoring pretty much Ruck 1 numbers for the season so far. So that is a bit annoying looking back in hindsight. It is pretty funny, but I wasn't really set on Witts. I just didn't want to go anyone else really after Darcy went down. And the thing is, of course, as well, English was locked. So yeah, couldn't go Gawn, couldn't go English. So really, Witts was my last option. But with Hayes going 127, I went for keeping Darcy until round 2. Now the forward line, the first 3 were absolute locks for pretty much everyone. I didn't see anyone else I wanted to risk in the forward line to begin with. It's always such a hard position or point of the field in SuperCoach to read early. You want to see a bit of data, who's playing mid-time as a forward eligible, who's doing what. It's more these next couple of picks that really, or this next one really, Mitch McGovern, that really hurt me. So having him over Brodie to begin with was a mistake. But obviously, we'll talk about in round 3, the bigger mistake was not making the switch to him instead. So, look, Gov, he did look good, to be honest, when he was on the field. You can't say he wasn't playing his role well, but his injury history has always been pretty average, and unfortunately for him and us who owned him, it did come to fruition in round 3 or whatever. So, that was a poor start. I probably would do it again with just such a good role and a good price, but yeah, the injury history was something that I didn't really factor in too much and probably should have avoided. But he was okay and would have been a good pick, to be honest. And another one was Kitty Coleman if he didn't do his hamstring in the preseason as well. So, obviously Will Brodie's the preferred option there that I just didn't go with. And Tristan Cherry was a really good option until he got injured as well. So he was a good pick. Very, very happy with that one. And Nick Martin was another one I was happy with, especially in round one when he turned up and kicked the 5 goals. So happy with that. I was happy with Durden, and then sort of Dixon and Hayes were just guys that I needed at that such a cheap price really to make the team work. So that's a round one team. Improvements would probably be dropping another mid like Took and spreading the cash around more. Maybe grabbing another mid pricer like Will Brodie is in the forward line, and maybe switching McGovern to defence or something like that. Spreading the cash around more. There was another few mid-price options in the midfield that have worked, like your John Newcombs, and even Caldwell wasn't too bad as well for people. But I just didn't want too many of those picks when you take a risk on its own. Obviously, it's a risk, but you stack up more, and it's just more of a collective risk for your team, and you don't want to be using too many trades early to fix things like that. So I just opted for not going with too many. I thought Gov and even Cherry and those rookies to an extent was enough risk for me, and even keeping Darcy, of course, but just didn't want to go with too many of them. So spent enough time on the starting team. Let's see what I did round by round. We go to round 2 here. Made no trades. Team scored actually pretty well the first 2 rounds. It was ranked about 5K or so after that. DeConning, I think he missed a game with a concussion. So I got the VC with McRae there. That was fine. Darcy came back and he got his 72 and was injured. So that was just another blow. Rolled his ankle trying to do some forward pressure, which just was a disaster. So made no trades. Had cover to sort of cover him next week. So left that there. Round 3. This is the round, obviously, where the prices changed, and I did make 2 changes and opted to save a boost here. So Whitfield, obviously, we all know, was scoring very poorly. Wanted to swap him down to the forward line in a man that I did really want to pick pre-season, but rookies and structure really didn't allow, and that was Isaac Heaney. So he started like a house on fire. I think it was 2 140s to begin with. Really kicking myself. I missed those early. So made pretty much the switch from Whitfield to him, and here's where I made the mistake of going McGovern to Bowie. So it was sort of a defender primo, forward primo swap, and then sort of your forward mid-pricer in McGovern to Jake Bowie swap in defence. So that did look pretty good at the time, but obviously as the year went on, not going Brodie at this junction was a massive mistake. So in hindsight, obviously Heaney was pretty good for a while. He eventually made way from my team, as we'll see later on, and it wasn't really necessary to have him, or it didn't kill you if you didn't have him, as I'm sure you know. And definitely not having Brodie was the one that killed me way, way more. So yeah, that's clearly where the first point where I stuffed up. Obviously the starting team wasn't as optimal, but this was the big one here where pretty much the rest of my season it just didn't pan out because of how good Brodie's been. So obviously that's what I would change, and maybe I'd just do a Gov to Brodie straight up. Would I trade Heaney still? I'm not sure who you'd even go to. Maybe you could just go down to Bowie as well in the defence and bank some cash. Not sure what I would have done differently, but I did save a boost here. Maybe it was probably better to use one and fix a couple of things, but yeah, definitely made a mistake in round 3. Round 4, made no trades here. Held firm. Nothing really big. Darcy was back, played Bruce, I believe, this week, and just wasn't quite fully fit and ready, and didn't go too well. A few rookies, a few premiums went bad here. Butter's not great. Cog's not great. Provided Cog was a bit of a mid-pricer, but and Stewart, of course, you can see, missed with some gastro, so pretty unlucky there. But this is when I started to fall. My premiums weren't keeping up with the likes of Paddy Cripps, who I didn't have at this stage, Tim English, who a lot sort of had at this stage. They were the ones sort of killing me, and just wasn't able to keep up, so started slipping in rank here. And in round 5, one trade that I can look back on and categorically say was a stuff up, and that was Dylan Stevens out to BJ Williams. So I think I've actually got the wrong photo here, but basically Dylan Stephens, I switched to BJ Williams as sort of a ruck cover or forward. He was forward eligible as well, so just another mid-pricer. Obviously, he was getting the number one ruck role and getting a go at it, but as you can see, and I've seen, definitely, he's just not up to it at AFL levels. So that was a very poor trade and one I'm happy to move on quickly and say I'll never do that again. Now round 6, I think it's updated properly. So in round 6, Grundy got an injury, as we all know. And he was playing very poorly at that stage as well. James Sicily was absolutely popping off, and someone I didn't own as well. So I made that sort of switch to get him. Bruce was on the bubble to play his third game, made the switch from Jake Bowie to him, essentially, to sort of bank some cash there. Bowie was sort of dropped that 59 or whatever it was against Port. He did bounce back and have a couple of good games after that, but I was happy to cash in. Pretty much made 140k, I think, from him then, or maybe 120. I can't quite remember. But get down to Bruce, and then Bruce was obviously going to be a key factor. And then that allowed me to get Matty Rowell all the way up to Jack Steele. Just afforded this, as you can see, by $1,000. And Jack Steele was really cooking at the time and someone I wanted to get in, who I wanted to initially start. So these trades are all good to me. I can't really see any that's wrong here. Getting Bruce was a must. Getting Sicily turned out to be an unreal trade. He's still sitting over 600k at the moment. He's 630, so that was good. And probably getting Jack Steele, it was good for the price, but it did turn out obviously wrong with the injury. Maybe there's a point you could say, I should have got some more value sort of player, because 640 is quite a lot, but obviously an injury is quite unlucky as well. So I'm happy with those trades. I think I did well there. That was fine. So probably a tick for me there. It's probably the first tick of the year. Round 7, Cherry went down, as we can see here. He had to go, and Paddy McCartan copped a concussion, and he was out, and BJ Williams, I just had to get out of that guy, and opted to get in Hayes here, which was Sammy Hayes, obviously rucking for Port. That was a key rookie to get as well. And then Oliver, who got down to this price and wasn't turning it around, and obviously waiting for him to drop, I think, the week prior, and he scored a 160 against the Tigers, so that was annoying. And then Greg Clark as well, who was back from his shoulder injury and straight into the West Coast team. So here, clear error was trading at Paddy McCartan instead of Hinge, although, as you can see, I could not afford these trades in Clayton Oliver by doing Hinge, as he's 2k less than McCartan here, and I only have 1.3 in the bank, so probably was going to do Hinge, and then I just really needed to get clarity in my team, and I just couldn't afford it, and it's just sometimes the way it goes. But that turned out to be very poor, as Paddy went on to make I think he did make another 100k to whatever he is at the moment. So there's another 100k loss out of my team value. Paddy's good on-field scores that he continued to have. So that was definitely a misstep there, but really couldn't get Oliver any other way. Clark and Hayes were what they're priced. Cherry and I think BJ probably compounded this with the fact that he didn't make any money at all, really, and that sort of affected me in the end. And obviously, so did Clary's bloody massive score the week before. But yeah, clearly trading at Paddy here was a definite mistake. Into round 8, and this is when Horn Francis pretty much had to go. There you go. He only really made 200k in the end, 100k, in the end. So that wasn't great. And I did finally bite the bullet and get in Paddy Cripps after he sort of returned from an injury, and was still at a very cheap price. Jack Hayes went out of my team as well. He unfortunately went down with injury, and then Dixon as well, who I think was getting dropped around the time or wasn't playing. Then got into rookies in Paul Curtis and McComb as well. So yeah, pretty much just banked some cash here and got in Paddy Cripps with a boost, and got a couple of rookies that I thought were necessary. McComb definitely was a pretty good one in the end, and Curtis I still have at this current point in time. So I don't think there's anything wrong with those trades there. Look, of course, Paddy hasn't been too great since I've got him. He scored 150 this week that I got him in round 8, but he hasn't really done a lot since. So sort of finally caved to getting him in, and it just hasn't really panned out. So I probably should have stayed away, like I was planning to. And then in round 9, what did I do here? Jared Berry finally made way out of my team, Josh Ward and Connor McDonald, and getting in Darcy Cameron, Jack Carroll and Rioli. So, I mean, the funny thing was this week, all the rookies that we were looking at, Carroll, Rioli and Hamilton, pretty much all panned out pretty average, because what we needed them for was to play in round 13, and none of them ended up doing that. So, Rioli's probably still the best out of the lot. I think he should come back into our team. But yeah, that was funny. There's none of them really panned out at all. But clearly, the great trade here was getting in Darcy Cameron, who's helped me greatly in the last month or so. Pretty much hold my terrible rank. So that was an absolute tick with Grundy out, him playing a bit more ruck time. Granted, it's not major ruck time, but he's just really good around the ground that it doesn't matter. As long as he gets his sort of 50, 60%, he can do what he does. Marking, tackling, getting inside ball. So yeah, he's a great player. As far as a scorer, really, like, obviously he's not an amazing tap ruckman, but he's really good around the ground. So that's been a super trade. And for anyone that was actually ranked very well and went with him, I'm sure he's done you absolute bits. So that was a tick. I don't think I could say much on here. The rookies, they just panned out the way they did. I'd probably do the same again. Look, Hamilton was probably stiff to get dropped, so maybe you could say I probably should have gone him, even though he hasn't panned out at all. But don't think I'd do anything different here. So they're fine. Round 10 was when Steele had to go, got his injury, and was had to go from my team. And this really was just kicking the pills this week, these trades. Now the week I did them, they were amazing. Jack Steele, Hinge finally left, and Mitch Owens, who I'd been hanging on as a loop for 10 weeks. Getting in Rory Thompson, getting in Petrarca, and getting in Bailey Smith. Pretty much all great trades. Now, Thompson got injured that exact week I got him. He was just meant to be some cover over the buys and hopefully for the rest of the year. That didn't pan out. But Track went 114, Bailey Smith went 117, and was pretty much an absolute lock to get forward status. And they were looking great. And then we go to the round 11 team and trades. And Track scores 53, and Baz misses with an illness. So it just went absolute pear-shaped in 1 week. Both of those guys could have been, I was looking at getting 2 mids, like Mills and Brayshaw, or Laird and, someone else. But just what I settled with turned out to be an absolute disaster. So, look, I can stand and say that they weren't terrible trades. They've just gone terribly, those two guys, and had to pretty much trade Baz out in a couple of weeks, which we'll get to. But, yeah, they just turned pear-shaped in 1 week, and it was just pretty laughable, really. So not much you could do there, but that's how they turned out. Prusy I got out of this week, which I had to do, and Nick Martin as well, who I believe was on his bye, and then got in Jared Witts in the ruck line to sort of finish off there and have Witts and Darcy for the rest of the season, and got in Cooper Stevens as well as hopefully a warm body across the buys, which he ended up being. So those trades are fine. I think Witts, I know he had a poor score last week, but I think he'll bounce back and be pretty good for the rest of the year. Round 12 recently was when I ditched Heaney on his bye in the middle to get in Tim English. It was pre his bye, but just thought English was an absolute must-have. Pretty decently priced as well for what he can do and what he was averaging. And then he pulls up an 80. Heaney scores, I think it was a 90, and then obviously Heaney's just had a 120 as well on the weekend. So, look, I used all my cash in the bank there to go Heaney to English. Don't know if it's probably been an optimal move or will turn out to be an optimal move. I mean, English is out for a week now as well, so you could say probably not, but I think it was a fine trade at the time, and that's something I'd do again, just considering how good and how sort of must-have I thought English was, so, or is still. So I think I'm okay with those trades there. Had to get Owens back in for a warm body, and obviously that didn't pan out, which you just can't really pick. Sometimes, pretty terrible screenshot here, but round 13 was when Baz had to go on his bye, DeConning on his bye, Macomb. So fine with these trades, and I really had to get in a defender and can only afford sort of Merritt as a switch in the midfield. So Merritt hasn't been too crash hot with a couple of 90s since I got him. Sinclair's been great. and then Clark as well was pretty good in his first game as well. So they're fine trades as well. And then we finish off with last week's trades, which I did Sammy Hayes, Durden, and Greg Clark to Teakle, who unfortunately got injured in his first game, D'Ambrosio and the Bont, who I was going to get Laird. But with the news of Butters having to be traded or injured this week, I opted to get a forward first, which turned out to be a lucky move because English is down as well. So I would have been very short if I went a midfielder instead. And then it did allow me to keep Dacos and field him this week. So hope you sort of enjoyed as what I went through and where I sort of thought I went well, and to be honest, mostly where I went wrong and what trades I didn't do correctly or what I should have done better. But we'll fix my team for this week, show you what I'm thinking of doing this week, and then sort of where I see my team finishing forward. But of course we will go through that on Friday as well on George's channel. But yeah, I mean, DC, thank God for him. Thank God for him. But yeah, I'm going to have to skip Laird, who I really do want. We'll chuck it on Shrek for now, the captaincy. But yeah, Laird against North, if he does end up playing, it's going to be pretty hard for me to watch. But just I can't do it now with another forward down. Have to trade Butters. I think I'm holding on to English. He is a top forward in this game. So we'll move that over there so you can see. And Luke Parker is the man I got to get, and I need 38k to do so. So the trade I'm going to do is Cooper Stevens, I believe, and get him down to whoever sort of is playing. I don't really know at this current point in time. Maybe it's a what's his name, Jai Cully. We got Big James Tunstall, who I really don't know who he is, playing tomorrow night, who I might look at. But yeah, maybe a Cully, maybe a Tunstall, something like that, to complete that trade, and that'll head me back into looking like this with Chuck Parker on for Judson Clark. And then what I'll do is loop probably Judson if he plays before Paul Curtis, and then use him as a loop and get that going. So yeah, that's how we're looking now. Of course, still need to use 2 more of these trades to get my last midfielder, which will be from doing Nick Dacos and probably a Paul Curtis down, and then Dacos up to I don't think I'll be able to afford a Laird or a Mills, which is annoying again. It'll have to be more of maybe a Jack Steele, who's back this week, I believe, or Brayshaw, or even a Sam Walsh, who's dropping in price as well. So that's who I'll finish my team off with. I'll have 3 trades. Hopefully, I'll probably have a little bit in the bank too, which will help in case any sideways or injuries. And that's where we'll finish the year on, and hopefully, I don't know, make top 5k or something, which I would see as a success from here, really. So thanks for watching. Leave any comments of what you think and what I could have done, what you agree with, what I assessed as, what trades each week I made, what you thought of how I assessed them. And yeah, let me know what mistakes you've made, what things you should have done better during the season. Hit the subscribe button for me. I'm not too far away from 1,000 subscribers, which would be awesome to get across in my first season. I enjoy making some videos, interacting with you guys. And yeah, be plenty more type of videos like this. I will be doing some other stuff as well. As soon as FPL opens, I'll be doing a few of those. And then once the season finishes with AFL, I'll probably head into some NFL fantasy as well to sort of keep me interested in the off season. So look, I'll still be doing some SuperCoach videos. We'll see how the year finishes, but it does get to the point where you're sort of not making any more trades, not doing too much, just crossing your fingers and hoping your team scores well every week. So yeah, it's been a very difficult year, been a poor year for myself, no doubt. Something I'll hopefully learn on and bring into next year. And yeah, hopefully you guys finish the year strongly. I'll be praying I do, but hopefully a few of you guys out there are in some good ranks and good positions and can finish the year very strongly. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Cheers. Got the mojo deals, we been tripping like 80. Pulling out the coupe at the lot.